There's some places where it's like here,
Great job, Mr. Seth.
Is it up?
I don't know.
It's live.
Now we're just waiting for.
Oh, I can get started now?
Yeah.
You live?
He said right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. So we are live, and we are in living color here in person. So thank you guys all for coming out tonight. Try to keep us on that 90-minute track as best as I can with the time that we've lost. But this conversation is to catch up in the best way possible where we are as a village, where we are in regards to conversations and different things that are happening on a state, federal, county level, as well as a township. So I'm going to jump right in. If you guys could save all of your questions until the end. If you have different questions, if you could make sure that if you don't have time to ask them tonight, you get them over to Ms. Banks, who's our community engagement manager. She'll be able to follow up with you and get more information, or if you guys want more information in regards to a specific topic, then we can get that going as well. So again, I'm going to jump right into it. I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. Again, Mayor Nathaniel George Booker for the Village of Maywood here tonight. Trustee Aaron Peppers is here with us tonight. Again, just sharing some things that have been going on over the last year and where we are more recently. So again, with sharing who I am, definitely a part of different organizations that are within the national scale, federal scale, and local scale, and state level. So with the National League of Cities being involved with the Institute for Youth Education and Families, it's a big benefit to the Village of Maywood because it helps us on a national scale provide funding and resources for youth education and family resources and partnerships. Federal advocacy for information technology and communication plays a big part, and I will get further at that within the slides in regards to our Infrastructure Jobs Act as well as the Inflation Reduction Act, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Working with the National League of Cities is also with the National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials, African American Mayors Association, working with the Illinois Municipal League, as well as the West Central Municipal Conference that is 40 of our surrounding West suburban communities within legislation, making sure that on a local level and on a state level that we're pushing legislation that benefits our community, and then working with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus with aging-friendly communities and diversity and inclusion collaborative. Right now we're doing an aging-friendly community feasibility study with the Metropolitan Planning Council in partnership with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. So just showcasing the different things that we are actively involved with that are not within 60153, but everything that they do benefits 60153 within the Village of Maywood. So first part, jumping right in to talk about where we are with the Inflation Reduction Act. So the Inflation Reduction Act just got signed into law a couple of weeks ago. Where we're focused on right now for the village is different points that the Inflation Reduction Act focuses on. So IRA, I'll just call it IRA for moving forward. One of the big parts is improving building stock through energy efficiency and zero emission electricity generation. So one of the big things that we're focusing on and working in partnership with organizations such as National League of Cities and an infrastructure hub is focusing on homeowner managing energy savings program. So there'll be some different community meetings that'll be taking place in partnership with ComEd in regards to energy reduction, as well as some programming that has gone into energy efficiency and electric efficiency and solar efficiency. So just wanted to highlight a couple of those areas, focusing on the low emissions. A lot of funding has been placed within low-income communities and disadvantaged communities, and the Village of Maywood is chartered as a low-income and disadvantaged community and underserved community. So a lot of things that I talk about tonight will focus more so on where we are in regards to being that low-income community that can benefit from various things within the Inflation Reduction Act. So one of our biggest focuses on transportation sector will be focusing on our heavy-duty vehicles. So all of our village-owned vehicles, there is funding opportunity to focus on replacing those, and then also working with neighborhood access and equity grants, and those focus on infrastructure barriers that we definitely have that we'll talk about further in the slides, and then it mitigates negative impact for transportation facilities and construction projects. Again, we are a disadvantaged and underserved community. Reducing our green gas emissions and improving air quality. So last month, the Village of Maywood signed on as a cross-community climate collaborative with 10 of our surrounding communities within the western suburbs, as well as some energy efficiency companies. So Urban Energy Efficiency is one of the big companies that we're working with in regards to navigating into this energy efficiency, climate change, climate emergency, energy security focus that's going on. Another big thing that we'll be talking about with residents are in regards our consumer tax credits that come into formats of, as I said before, solar, rooftops, electric, HVAC systems, as well as water heaters. There's funding that's going to become available for those. There'll also be funding that's coming down the pipeline in regards to used clean vehicles as well as new clean vehicles, tax credits for clean sources of electricity and energy storage, and then clean fuels and clean commercial vehicles to reduce emissions. So we had a meeting with our business community earlier today where we discussed different credits and different avenues that they have that are coming down the pipeline that will make the Village of Maywood more energy efficient, but also make their businesses more energy efficient. And jumping into the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is not the Inflation Reduction Act, we've partnered and working on a state level and on a federal level with Justice 40 Initiative. So working in partnership with the Justice 40 Initiative, it's showcasing that 40% of the federal funding that comes into the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, 40% of that funding goes back into underserved and disadvantaged communities. So Justice 40 Initiative, as along with the National League of Cities and Bloomberg Philanthropies, we're working within the local infrastructure hub. With the Village of Maywood being the first part of a little over 100 communities out of 19,000 across the nation, we're benefiting with being a part of the local infrastructure hub that will focus on 400 different grants across 30 different investment fields within our community. So that process will, the first 6 months, goes through the 30 different areas, as well as building our capacity, so that when various federal fundings come available and state fundings become available, instead of getting ready, we're already ready to go, and we already have the information that's required to click submit. This is the first cohort of what will be 6 different cohorts. So overall, there'll be 600 communities that they work with, but the Village of Maywood is within the first 100 that the Bloomberg Philanthropy and National League of Cities will be working with. And that focuses on rebuilding transportation connectivity. So we say Vision Zero, so safe streets for everyone is a big project of what it'll be focused on. National infrastructure projects, and we'll get to talking about all of the infrastructure projects that we need to get done from a village standpoint. Smart grants focusing on building successful smart cities, as well as reconnecting communities, and focusing on building and focusing and reconnecting communities. It goes into water and climate. One of our biggest issues that we have within the Village of Maywood is because our infrastructure is so old, with dealing with our water resiliency and focusing on funding to get our water done. The Village of Maywood did a study in partnership with the Metropolitan Planning Council. And with the partnership in regards to the Planning Council, there were 1,300 communities across the state of Illinois, and the village of Maywood was ranked number 23 in regards to worst lead service lines. So right now we're working with the state as well as with the federal government to focus on how do we make sure that we get the state funding and we get the federal funding to be able to deal with our lead service lines. So even before we deal with our sewage and before we deal with water and leakage as an overall issue, our lead service lines is an over $30 million issue all by itself. And there are state mandates that have come through saying that we need to be lead service free and lead service friendly, but there's no funding that has come behind that except for the federal funding. So we're just making sure that as federal funding becomes available and trying to be compliant with the state that has not provided funding for it, that we're able to apply for that federal funding to be able to handle those different situations. And again, I'm not going to go over every single one of these, but this presentation will be available on the village website when you click on the village website later after the presentation. Another big thing that we're focused on is our brownfields and our hazardous substance superfund. So when thinking about the village of Maywood, there is still a lot of land that still has oil tanks, gas tanks, property that needs to be cleaned up or remediation needs to take place. In the past, we focused heavily a lot on having the Illinois Environmental Protection come and help. There's a lot of federal funding in regards to getting these cleaned up right now. So in working in partnership with our community development department, as well as working in partnership with our engineering, which is Hancock Engineer, putting together a list of if every piece of land and property within the village of Maywood was cleaned up, and if we got rid of every tank that's still in the ground from old gas stations or old appliance stores or auto shops and different things like that got cleaned up, where specifically are there and what would that cost be, so that we can go to the federal government and showcase we have shovel-ready project to come clean that land up and remediate it and clean it up for us is what they're looking for. So we're working to get that ready and available. The bottom two parts that focus in regards to materials for recycling as well as consumer materials management, we just changed our contract to LRS earlier this year from Recycle Services, and this is going to play a big part in the village of Maywood next year, rolling out heavier focus on recycling, heavier focus on consumer materials and consumption, and this also goes into that cross-community climate collaborative that we're working with to focus on those types of things. So those will be more information that comes to us available. Spoke earlier in regards to broadband access, digital equity, and cybersecurity. One of the biggest things that we learned when COVID hit and the school shut down and our students had to teach from home was the village of Maywood in the western suburbs was one of the heaviest communities that children did not have access to broadband. So within our rebuilding, focusing on the municipal utilities and focusing on redoing our commercial corridors as well as revitalizing our green space, just making sure that we're doing broadband mapping so that broadband access can be made available to all of our youth. And then the other big part that we've been focusing on since last year when we had an assessment done was our cybersecurity. A lot of communities across the nation that are experiencing cybersecurity hacks and break-ins and hijackings are simply paying them out. A lot of communities aren't talking about it because they don't want to make people aware that they got broken into and had to pay a ransom to a company or to an agency or to an entity that hijacked their programming. One of the biggest issues that we're going through, not Maywood specifically because that hasn't been an issue for Maywood, but insurance companies are now putting in more stringent restrictions in regards to making sure they do have various factors of cybersecurity in place, and that, to be fully transparent, we are not fully there, but there is a roadmap that we have gotten laid out with us that we'll be sharing. We're doing different updates to our phone systems right now, different updates to our internet software systems, our servers, so that we can install safer and more protected cybersecurity information. But look out for more details in regards for those things to come. And that was that. Oh, I'm sorry. To talk about where we are in regards to our infrastructure, this is more so of the conversation that I've shared in different ways, but again, just showcasing all of the needs of the village of Maywood. So with doing the assessment of where we are in regards to alley, our roadways, our water system, again, lead pipe replacement, sewer, safety things that are needed, once we look at from the financial need and then now post-COVID, now that more money has been added onto it, they gave us a 15% assessment, but now they're saying that we're going to jump it to more of a 25% assessment on materials costs and labor costs. But if we took care of every infrastructure issue that the Village of Maywood had, we would be at about $300 million in regards to expenses and spending. So when thinking about it from that standpoint, what we've done and what you see on the roadmap is roads that are owned and operated by Cook County, by the Illinois Department of Transportation, where there's designated collector routes that we have eligible funding through the Illinois Department of Transportation, and then just various capital improvement projects and village-owned property that we're focused in regards to a roadmap of who do we need to work with. So we're working with the state, are we working with the county, are we working with the Water Reclamation District, but this provides the route of where we can get different funding sources provided to us. This map this showcases various projects that have taken place within the past summer and earlier this year of projects that needed to be taken care of, needed to be done, and it also shows the source of where that funding came from. So we'll talk about TIFs in slides moving forward, but a lot of money that we utilize through our tax increment financing district goes towards infrastructure and road repair. A lot of times people talk about what's going on with Washington Boulevard. Let's talk about Washington Boulevard. So, within Washington Boulevard, that hasn't been done since I was born, we have the state funding that's been allotted for us to get the project done and federal funding that went into getting the project done. This year we had to go through the engineering designs, and the funding that was awarded to us from a federal and a state level had to go through a process. So we, in June, submitted all of our plans, our specs, our contracts, and our packages to the Illinois Department of Transportation. We have to focus on some areas for water main replacement, and then where it says like pullback project, where some of our corners of cement, like where our walkways are, have to be pulled back. November, we go into the state bidding process, and then groundbreaking should happen sometime in the month of April of next year. And then once the project should be done, it should be completed by the end of the summer of next year from 9th Avenue to 21st Avenue. And then it'll be a brand new Washington Boulevard, some infrastructure issues taken care of, as well as a bike lane. When we talk about our sewage system in regards to things that needs to get upgraded, we've partnered with Cook County and we partnered with the Metropolitan Water District. So with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, from a construction funding standpoint, this is a multi-phase project that focuses on the south side of the expressway for the Village of Maywood and pretty much every space from 1st Avenue to 24th Avenue that is south of the Prairie Path. So those homes in that area have single sewage systems. So to work on making sure that there's no more backflow into home areas, there's no more flooding that happens into those homes when we get heavy water, installing that dual pipe system as well as cleaning up that area is a phase that goes into the construction that helps within our water and sewage system. Once this project is done, we'll move on to other projects, but right now the project that's underway and being worked on goes from, again, our Prairie Path, South Maywood, and then on the other side of the expressway. If you guys would like to follow up where we are within our stormwater and storm sewage separation project, you can actually click on the link at the Village of Maywood website, and it will give you the study updates of what came with those different areas, and then there were various links and public meetings that took place to get to that area of focus as well. So when you click on the Village website, you can look at storm sewer separation project, and then it will give you more information. And thinking about working with the Illinois Department of Transportation, a lot larger, bigger projects that go into play, they've done funding resources in a 5-year phase. So in focusing on that, Washington Boulevard at the bottom of 2020, where you see 2023, definitely is that $4.8 million that's been invested to get this project done and completed in 2023. Following that project, the next focus will be 19th Avenue. So 19th Avenue cannot start the pre-construction work until after we're done with Washington Boulevard, because Washington and 19th cross over each other. So as soon as Washington Boulevard is completed, then we'll focus on the 19th Avenue corridor. There was some work already done to Roosevelt Road, so there'll be just some cracks and joint sealing done on that. And then the Lake Street project, there's some work that'll be coming that way, but the price tag of $11.8 million is definitely tied into more than just the village of Maywood along the Lake Street corridor. So that shoulder repairing and new signage and a focus on bus routing along the Lake Street corridor is a bigger project that spans past just the village of Maywood, but the village of Maywood will be impacted by that work being done. So this is currently what the Illinois Department of Transportation has in their fiscal year, leading all the way up to 2028. In our previous board meetings where we've been talking about this for a little over a year now, predominantly within our tax increment financing districts that provide funding to the village in blighted or areas that otherwise need financial assistance, it used to focus predominantly in regards to our commercial district. So it would go down Fifth Avenue, Madison, St. Charles, Lake Street, and Roosevelt. What we've done in focusing on our tax increment financing district areas is expanding them into more residential space. A lot of times when people look, you'll say, the alley 2 blocks over from my house is completed. Why wasn't my alley done? That alley might have fallen to a TIF district, or that alley might have been funded in a different way. If you guys are looking at the map, a lot of the red and yellow that you see within that map heavily focuses on our alleys. So as you can see within the new TIF mapping, every single alley, all 72 alleys that are still rock alleys will be within the new TIF districts. But not only as a benefit in regards to alleys and infrastructure and road work that needs to be completed, it'll also help us in regards to attracting and retaining our business. So when thinking about our business corridors, with the expansion of the TIF districts, we'll be able to focus on streetscaping, we'll be able to focus on different things such as awnings or aesthetics of the overall community, attracting different businesses that might need financial support or be looking for certain incentives. A thing that we all need to remember, and I know we all feel as homeowners, is the village of Maywood is the highest taxed community in the western suburbs. If you look at Cook County overall, out of 134 communities, we rank in the bottom 120 when it comes to our property taxes. So to be more competitive, we need to be able to offer different incentives that will make the businesses more attractive to come to the village of Maywood and also view us as a partner. Another thing that we look at in regards to the TIF districts are our properties, so residential areas. So it's like you create all these incentives and all these programs for businesses, but what about the residents? So one of the other focuses that we'll be looking at is, as we're talking about infrastructure building, residential building as well. New fencing, new plumbing, new roofing, new driveways, different things, anything that from an aesthetic standpoint of community pride, that the village can help create various programs that would benefit home ownership and community prosperity. Those are the different things that the new TIF district will put funding behind. If you look at number 5 of the TIF district, a big project that's being discussed and talked about on that is the revitalization of all land that is actually owned by the village of Maywood to be retained and operated by the village of Maywood. There's a lot of property that we have, such as the courthouse and ComEd, that has, it's in a TIF district right now. It's still owned by the village of Maywood, but of course, the village of Maywood isn't reaping the full benefits that we could benefit from that area being right off the expressway, so close to the downtown area. Big projects like if you look over where the village hall currently is, that was never meant to be our village hall. That was a public works building. The golf range that closed, working on getting that back open. So there's different projects throughout each and every different TIF that can benefit. The area 4 that we're looking at, one of the big benefits that a TIF incentivized area will be able to bring is, everybody's familiar with the Volkswagen dealership right on 5th and Roosevelt. That project's going to take some TIF assistance. TIF area number 1, when we talk about First and Lake Street, those are the different things that TIF funding and incentivization and community beautification will be able to help us benefit in. So in thinking about overall economic development opportunities, here's some active construction projects that we currently have going on within the village of Maywood. So currently going on within the village of Maywood, the Old Baptist Senior Home is now the Maywood Supportive Living Facility. Within the Maywood Supportive Living Facility, they do tours every Thursday. So anybody who would like to take a tour of those facilities and do a walkthrough, they have a ribbon cutting event coming at the end of the September, and then we also will have like a community open house looking at the end of September for that facility as well. But it's 121 residential area for senior citizens. It will come with supportive living for those who are in need of the supportive living. It provides 3 meals a day in their cafeteria. They have a movie theater in there, a hair salon in there, a little commissary in there. So for those who would like to tour that facility, or for those who are interested in maybe becoming a member, living member of that facility, if you can contact the Maywood Supportive Living, they can get you set up for a Thursday tour. Every Thursday they're doing the tours. Or if you just like to contact Ms. Banks in the Community Engagement Department, we can definitely get you guys set up on a tour and get you more information in regards to that. More recently, National Cycle, which is on 20th and Maywood Drive, just completed their 30,000 square foot expansion. National Cycle is an international company that's been in the village of Maywood for more than 40 years. They moved throughout the village through the time that they've been here several times, and at a point that they were thinking about leaving and moving, the village, we were able to convince them to not only stay, but to expand within the village. So they work on like plastic automotive parts for like motorcycles, ATVs, different things like that. If you know anybody who's interested in working, they're most certainly hiring. You can go right over there to the National Cycle and let them know that you are looking for work employment. They have various shifts, and they can train for pretty much the bulk of the jobs that they're hiring for right now, which is helping cleaning the plexiglass, making sure that it's fitting to the materials and fitting to the equipment correctly, shipping, getting the storage ready to ship internationally, because 50% of their industry is overseas, so it's a lot of packaging and boxing and getting those things ready to ship out. Kroger Mariano Distribution Center, so this is focusing on online deliveries. So if you order and shop online for your grocery store and your grocery amenities, Kroger Mariano Distribution Center is opened on the 1900 block at 19 Maywood Drive, directly behind National Cycle. They just did another hiring fair today at the Lightford Recreation Center. So I want to say this is their 4th or 5th one. We cut the ribbon at that facility last week. So that is an 84,000 square foot investment, where it's a distribution center that food comes into that space for this region, and then you have multiple different vehicles coming in, grabbing those things and doing door drops at different people's locations of where they live or where they've ordered for the food to go to. Aetna Solutions is over off 14th and St. Charles. They had a plywood company. With COVID, they switched a lot of different things that they're focused on. So they still have a lot of plywood and still focus on that primarily, but they've also gone into different aspects of countertops, cabinetry. They have a showroom, so if you're doing any renovations, you can go possibly order some of the materials that they have and get those things to be at a pickup location. But then they also closed their facility that they had in Cicero. So they brought those employees over to the village of Maywood as well, and focusing on working differently within their space and expanding their business. IFF residential development projects, there are 6 different projects areas going on within IFF that are building affordable and workforce housing units. So in total, once they're all done, it'll be 25 different units throughout the village of Maywood. So look out for more in regards to that. They are having a community workshop next month that they'll be talking about all of the different programs and workshops, that all of the different projects that they have going on right now. So that'll be an update. ABW car wash equipment is on the corner of 9th and St. Charles. So I'm sure during this time you guys saw a building being built while the building was still standing. They did a 20,000 square foot expansion while still fully operating and functioning their business. So instead of moving out of the village of Maywood, that company is they're in the 3rd generation of occupancy, and they expanded 20,000 square feet, where they built the new facility on top of their old facility, and then now they're tearing that facility down, all while still functioning as a facility, fully functioning, which is a really amazing thing to see, because it's crazy to think that they built a building on top of a building. Now they're demolishing the building inside, but still they're not losing any work time because they've evolved and installed a lot of new equipment that helps them for the future. If anybody's been on the 1200 block of First Avenue, you guys can see that Buddy Bear Car Wash is going up pretty fastly. So that we're looking forward to opening that soon. If you're familiar with the Falcon Shell gas station over on 3rd and Roosevelt, that like 2nd, 3rd, like right when you get past Burger King where the gas station is with the fence around it, that's going to be the Shell gas station. So Shell gas station, the small little building that's currently there is going to get torn down, and then the bigger building will be built on the back. That building will have a Shell gas station as well as 2 additional vendors, which they're looking at adding a Subway and a Dunkin' Donuts as a possibility, but they're building the space for 2 other entities to be there as well. And then if you guys have been down Roosevelt Avenue as well, you'll see where there was the White Castle that will soon be the Slice Factory Pizzeria that'll be opening soon. As we continue to talk about reimagining the village of Maywood, some of the bigger projects that we're focused on are all of our parks and recreation spaces. So if you guys are familiar, this year and last year, the village of Maywood, well, let's backtrack. So in 2007, there was a village referendum that the village of Maywood get out of park and recreation as a focus. So in 2007, the village of Maywood took out of the budget, the park and recreation department. So since 2007, there's been no one in the village truly focusing on our parks. Last year and earlier this year, the village of Maywood did a transfer, finally, after 15 years, of the parks that we have not taken care of for over 20 years almost. So now, in looking at that management agreement of our 200 building, which is the Masonic Temple across the street, that has not been fully functioning for over a decade. When you look at the 1100 block next to the Prairie Path, that's the old Ceasefire building. That building got shut down over a decade ago. A lot of our parks have gone blighted to the point that if you look at our 9th Avenue Waterwork area park, that park is being ripped out in October. 16th and Washington, that park has to be ripped out as well, and that building that's in that park needs to be demolished. So we're working on those 3 as a focus. There was a feasibility study done for all of our green space within the village of Maywood, and to redo every park because it was ignored for so long is about $4.5 million as an investment. And then in looking at our pool, we did receive an OSLOT grant from our speaker about a year and a half ago. That was a little bit over $300,000. If the pool is 60 years old. If we were to fix and bring up to date everything within that pool, it's $1 million to get done. So what we're doing is we're working right now with the state to actually say, if you guys could help us not only with the $1 million, but actually the $3 to $3.5 million it would cost to rip that pool out and put a brand new pool in. That would be a lot more helpful than putting $1 million into a 60-year-old pool that 5 years, 10 years down the line will still need to be replaced. So what we're working on right now is a project that would actually still at the same location, still the Fred Hampton Family Aquatic Center, but put a brand new pool within the village of Maywood, not an old one. In the meantime, while we don't have a swimming pool, the Park District, the Village of Maywood, and School District 209 have come to partnership and agreement because there is a swimming pool in the field house of Proviso East that we're working with the school district, that we're working with 209 as well as the Park District to provide one, lifeguard training classes, because one of the biggest issues that we saw this last summer, even with COVID coming back on board, it was hard to find people to work as lifeguards, to the point that even the city of Chicago almost wasn't able to open up half of the beaches and half of their pool areas this summer because they simply could not find the staff. So what we're focused on is a partnership with Triton as well as School District 209 and the Park District to actually do a training class that would get lifeguards that actually live within the community that could be the lifeguards during the summertime, as well as, because it's an indoor pool, we can offer other pool activities throughout the rest of the year. So look out for more details on that. As soon as we can get people trained in regards to being lifeguards, we can most certainly look into having senior swimming, because we just talked about senior aerobics type things. We start talking about special rec, where they would want to utilize the pool facility, but also just an open swimming pool day, like teaching kids how to swim. Proviso East used to have a swimming team that doesn't exist right now, but if we could get enough people interested in aquatics again, we could definitely get that back up and going. First Avenue to 21st Avenue Parade Path. So we just received an award letter this month in regards to the parade path being completely redone. So from First Avenue to 21st Avenue, we'll be doing some revitalization to the parade path. We'll be installing some new, like, I don't know if you've been to other communities, but the parade path goes 65 miles. First Avenue is just the starting point of it. But if you go along other community parade paths, they have like workout equipment, they have solar aspects, they have 911 calling stations in case of emergency. They have much better lighting. They have simple benches to enjoy. They have floral areas that you can just relax in a garden as a peaceful place. So thankful to Invest in Cook County. We have been awarded funding to get that project underway. So stay tuned for details in regards to 1st to 21st Avenue with the parade path being redone. When we talk about village residential property rehab for a community sustainability program, that was more so what I was speaking to before when I was talking about the TIF zones. So within our TIF areas, focusing on different programming that could rehab homes that are able to be rehabbed, but tear down some homes, as you guys see, rehab, demolition of vacant and abandoned structures, tear down the homes that aren't eligible for revitalization, but then also focus on some programming that residents can get more invested and financially sound by purchasing some properties on their block, renovating some properties on their block, and making sure that we're focused on not just necessarily flippers that want to come into the community, but focusing on people who actually want to invest. This is a bigger piece of what we're working with the Cook County Land Bank, as well as looking at what village resources can we legally tap into, because there are so many properties that we don't know who own them. There are so many properties that are 5, 10, 15, 20 years behind in taxes that even if it goes to a scavenger sale through the Cook Counties, nobody's ever going to buy it, so it's just going to sit blighted for even longer. There are some properties that banks are just simply holding on to, waiting for a rainy day. I don't even know what they're waiting for at this point, but legally looking at every option we possibly can go into to revitalize each one of our blocks is what we're focusing on. I spoke about the aging in a friendly place, so senior home assistance programming. We're working with the Metropolitan Planning Council in regards to that, so stay tuned for updates on that. Green Health and Wellbeing Center, so as I said before, the 1100 block of 11th Avenue has the old ceasefire facility. The Park District has a management agreement that they're working with Proviso Partners for Health, along with the Real Food Collective, to get that facility up and running so that it'll focus on nutrition, health, and wellness for that area and for the community as a whole to be able to benefit and enjoy from. So there's updates coming in regards to that building. They wanted to get involved and start working on the building this year, but what we found when we went into the building that's been abandoned for so many years, it has black mold in it, and just to get the black mold as a project cleaned up so that we can start working on the building, it's an $82,000 investment. So we're working on that. 19th and St. Charles is a commercial corridor. That is one of those situations where I say the properties that I've not paid taxes in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the 19th and St. Charles corridor, pick a building, pick a lot. 10, 15, 20 years have not paid the taxes on it, and that's why it's so blighted. So we've been having intentional conversations and meetings with the land bank as well as our legal counsel to, again, make sure that we're exercising within legal parameters the best way to acquire those properties and get those things back in the tax roll. CTA Blue Line expansion. So within the expansion of the 290 expressway that's happening, that project is set to start in 2026. That will expand the Blue Line, expand the expressway. The CTA Blue Line expansion was a part of that project, that it would have been a 13-mile project that would have gone all the way to Naperville within the Blue Line. Some communities have pushed back on it. So right now we're in conversation with the CTA and fighting in regards to where that Blue Line project would go and how it will benefit. So there are more details to come, but it's been a lot of back and forth of the Blue Line needs to be expanded into the suburban communities because that's where a lot of the workforce and a lot of jobs are needed and a lot of transportation issues exist. We have plenty of bus routes, but a train line system would definitely benefit the suburban communities more. It's more so of the coming to a slow yes of some communities that might not be so interested in a train system coming to their community, while at the same time acknowledging with building all of these facilities and these entities that provide work that formerly were in the city, now in the suburbs, people need to have them accessible. So it's a fun equity fight going on. First Avenue Transit Create program. So for those who live on the north side of Maywood, we'll be happy to hear that there has been funding in this new infrastructure bill to focus on, there are several projects within the state of Illinois that have received funding to do the feasibility and start the project if it is something that the village has to do a lot of lifting in regards to and a lot of care in regards to. It's called the GREAT program. So we're looking at right now feasibility of either, well, we're starting the meetings to explore the feasibility to get to the point of the project. First Avenue either having an underpass or an overpass. Initially the project was looking at First Avenue and Fifth Avenue. Was looking at Fifth Avenue as a project that would have had to be a lot of land acquisition, and we would have torn down a lot of buildings and structures to get that project done. So primarily the project will focus on First Avenue. One of the bigger issues or parameters that we're looking at from the First Avenue standpoint is it's so close to the Des Plaines River. So that's going to have to be something that we're taking into consideration and working in partnership with the state and different entities to get that project done. So stay tuned for updates. 17th and Madison Street Commercial Corridor, again, that's more so revitalization. That area we all know is one of our areas that definitely needs some TLC. I think we can appreciate that there has been some crime reduction. We can appreciate that there have been some new businesses opening, such as yours Game Room right in the back. Hey, Tori. But we need more investment within that area, and there needs to be more things done to that area. So again, as we are talking about these different things, the Community Development Department are putting together different listening sessions where we'll be going around focusing on each different zone. And as we're applying for different funding, making sure that the community voice has to do with the funding that we're applying for and the projects that we're going for. Because we're looking at upgrading our comprehensive plan that's over a decade old at this point. So in updating the comprehensive plan of the Village of Maywood that we want to see for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, a lot of community listening sessions are going to take place into that. And then we'll come together and update the comprehensive plan of what we have. So there's various different feasibility studies going on right now. Within also the St. Charles, Madison, and Des Plaines corridor, I'll just use those two as well. Madison and Des Plaines is a project, and looking at the golf range, looking at the relocation of Village Hall to be back where it formerly was next to the library, looking at the Public Works area being relocated back to where it originally was over by the St. Charles area, and then working to make that space more like a live, work, play environment that brings revenue is a feasibility that's being done. Right now, focusing on First Avenue as a revamped commercial corridor space. Again, as I said before, looking at property that certain county land currently sits on is still owned and operated by, like the Village of Maywood still owns that property. So when I look at stuff that we travel out to Oak Brook or Oak Brook Terrace to enjoy, the land is right there for us to have similar aspects. We just made it a courthouse, and we made it the sheriff's office, and we made it ComEd. But it doesn't have to stay that way, right? So those are different conversations on a state level and on a county level that are taking place. So definitely looking forward to it. Looking at Eisenhower Tower as a project is a big focus that's going on right now. Within thinking about the First Avenue expansion, more so commercial corridor from Madison to the expressway versus residential is a big conversation. Not sure if at the last board meeting we discussed a demo list. A lot of those First Avenue properties were on that list. So look out in regards to update on those. And then the last part I'm reimagining on this slide is talking about the Maywood market. So within the Maywood market, there were several interests that came from the request for proposal that we had. The biggest interest that feasibly looks like something that we are heavily working on is Living Fresh, which is based in Forest Park. So Living Word Christian Center took over Living Fresh from the old Leamington family earlier this year. And in focusing on that, they're going through a multi-phase renovation at their Forest Park location right now. So if you go over there, one of the biggest things that they first did was replace all of the expired, outdated, or non-name brand groceries that they had at the old Living Fresh facility. That property is 72,000 square feet, where our property is about 30,000 square feet. So they took about 15,000 square feet of that to make it more so pop-up business shop space. and then they're using another 10,000 square feet of that to have like smoke cookers for pulled pork and different things like that, a sushi bar, different sandwich shops, different bakeries. And then they're also looking at, within their renovation, that they're doing a pharmacy that'll exist at the new location that they're doing, and a podcast center. So they're looking at grocery shopping, but also looking at it in a way that is attractive on multiple fields and multiple scales. And that's what they're looking at. What can they do on a not 72,000 square foot standpoint, but 30,000 square foot standpoint within the village of Maywood. So definitely want everyone to look out in regards to updates with that. Their CEO, Ms. Winston, was at our last village board meeting on a call, and their manager as well as their engineering team were on that call as well, expressing their interest. It's just that building has been abandoned for 10 years. We had some electrical work done to it about a decade ago that was over $200,000 worth of work that was ripped out, stolen, and there's just some work that we need to do on our side to make sure that we're making the best deal that's a win-win for the village, for the residents, as well as for the business, to make sure that we don't spend another almost $500,000 like we did a decade ago that for a business that we can't even keep open for a year. One of the biggest things that we've been focused on for the last 12 months is a federally qualified health center. And looking at the federally qualified health center, I'm not sure if anybody's ever been to the Lawndale Christian Health Center over on Ogden in the city, but this is more of the inspiration that this thought process came from. So in looking at a federally qualified health center, FQHC focuses on proactive Medicare medical aid. So preventative health services, dental services, mental health and substance abuse services, as well as hospital and specialty care. So in thinking about it from the Village of Maywood standpoint, we've been having the different conversations focusing on primary care, natural birth, dental services, behavioral health, transportation, and specialty care. And in having those different conversations that focus on what we need, we also have been having the conversation about preventative medication and preventative services as well. So in thinking about that thought process, what can we do from a multi-generation standpoint that helps be more proactive from a healthcare standpoint? What courses, services, or seminars can we provide? How can we address our food insecurity? How can we address the fact that there's nowhere to work out in the Village of Maywood at a facility? But also providing therapists and programming and demonstrations that overall focus on a healthy human being is what the FQHC model that we've been looking at focuses on. What we've done over the past few months was, one, we had to start with the qualifying, do we need a federally qualified health center in the western suburbs and in the Proviso community area? So we have partnered with Trinity Health. Trinity Health owns Loyola, and Trinity Health owns Gatwick Hospital. So with that, they put forward the feasibility study money, which is about $35,000 that we as a village did not have to pay for, to qualify the fact that the Village of Maywood and the Maywood Proviso area needed to update and get proactive health care. There used to be a medical facility on St. Charles that's not there anymore. There's medical care that was on the Fifth Avenue corridor as well as the Madison corridor that's not there anymore. So it was a focus on qualifying our underserved community status, qualifying our disadvantaged community status, and qualifying the surrounding communities as well. Some of the bigger pieces that got the Village of Maywood as of saying, yes, you qualify, was when you think in the western suburbs and when you think about Cook County overall as an area, when you look outside of the city of Chicago map proper and focus on the west side, the Village of Maywood circles as the highest in regards to obesity, diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, mental health issues, substance abuse issues. And those are some of the benchmarks and data that we use to qualify the need for a federally qualified health center here in the Village of Maywood. One of the biggest parts that we talked about was life expectancy. So when you think right next door to us is River Forest, a person who lives in River Forest, simply by crossing a bridge to the Village of Maywood, if you cross over to River Forest, you are likely expected to live 10 years longer. So those were the different qualifying factors that got the Village of Maywood to be eligible for it, as well as our poverty line. So what we've talked about is in partnership with various different agencies and entities that would be either shared space partners where they would utilize the space as needed, or we also have some partners that would actually like to occupy some of the space as a permanent facility care thought process. So in thinking about the estimated needs, we focused on senior programming, VeggieRx that already does Real Food Collective and provides partners for health in partnership with the Maywood Park District, building an actual fitness center and gymnasium, having a healthy food cafe, shared mental health services, shared circulation of space that can be allowed, and then also providing what we talked about in regards to proactive health as well. So this project is looked at to be about an 80 to 95,000 square foot project that will be a huger piece of what we're focused on right now. So we're in like phase 2 going into phase 3 of where we are in probably like a 5-6 phase project. Within the progress and the partners that have been working to get us to this point, Trinity Health and IFF have been the biggest major proponents of this, because the funding that Trinity Health gave as a feasibility employed IFF to get us to where we are in regards to the study. So we've been working with the Illinois Department of Public Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Illinois Emergency Management Agency, as well as the different partners that you can see within the screen to have the community conversations, have the mental health conversations, have the feasibility conversations, and one big partner that's not listed on this, and I'm just forgetting, is the Lawndale Christian Health Center. They have been extremely helpful in regards to being a consultant of how do we get to where we need to be and how do we provide the services and the resources that we want to provide. When we talk about facility partners, these are the different partners and the logos that you see that will be actually facilitated within the facility, as well as overall healthcare and health services. So partnership again, gym facility within the village of Maywood, Real Food Collectives and Proviso Partners for Health, focusing on food injustice, food nutrition, Above and Beyond Family Recovery Center and Thrive Counseling Center, substance abuse, drug abuse, mental health, mental abuse, tattoo removal, gang reduction, everything of what they provide. And then NAMI, along with the National Alliance of Mental Illness, focuses heavily on suicide reduction and prevention. And then for those who had the benefit of interacting with Loyola, on top of Loyola, the COVID Equity Response Collaborative, Loyola, that focused a lot during COVID, is transitioning more to a Community Equity Response Collaborative group. So there'll be services as well that they're offering to make sure that we're moving in a positive direction. So we're looking at Fifth Avenue in Washington as the location for that to be. Right now, that is an old tow truck facility, Robinson's Towing, that still has a tank down the ground. The land still has to get remediated. So we're working on that as a project, as well as if you look in the back, there's like an old house and an old garage that has land on top of it. So in reality, we're looking at occupying that entire space. When we think about from a parking perspective, in front of the grocery store, there's 2 different parking lots on the grocery land. So making that more of municipal parking so that we can double use that space as well is a big focus. In thinking about community engagement and where we can be from a standpoint of getting involved, one of the big things that we've been focusing on with our crisis management and public safety collaborative is reimagining public safety and using various toolkits that other towns and cities are already using, and then also looking at recommendations from the National League of Cities of reimagining public safety as a task force. So there's been a lot of things that have taken place within our public safety standpoint to be able to share. But before we look at what's been done, just wanted to share a different couple of stats. So when we think about within the village of Maywood, our robberies, our aggravated assaults and batteries, burglary, theft, vehicle theft, and homicide, each one of these entities are down double digits from where we were this time last year, except for vehicle theft. And that is a still national issue. We've partnered with the city of Chicago on a vehicle theft task force that we're working with to try to combat that. But when you think about, any homicide is definitely a horrible homicide. Last year, the village of Maywood had 16 homicides. So when you look at the first quarter of this year, where you see January, February, and March, the village of Maywood has not had a quarter with 0 homicides in over 5 years. When you think about from the standpoint, in the month of June, there were 0 homicides. Month of August, 0 homicides. So there's a lot of positive things happening from a public safety standpoint, and I know a lot of times we talk about we still don't feel the safest community, and we still feel like there's work to be done. There is most certainly work to be done, but the Maywood Police Department has gone above and beyond in ways to make sure that we are providing a safer environment for our residents and for our community overall. So we installed different radar speed signs that have been implemented on the Fifth Avenue corridor. If you drive down Fifth Avenue, you'll see the same signs that were like in Melrose Park, where it says like you're going too fast, it'll showcase your speed that's going. We appointed our new deputy chief, Yancey, who's right here in the audience with us tonight, appointed a record supervisor. There were 2 active shooter scenario trainings that were conducted at Garfield School and at Stevenson Middle School. If you all looked at the last board meeting, School District 89 came and did a presentation on the different safety measures that they've implemented for this school year. There's also been implementations in the lab. They just did an active shooter presentation on today's Tuesday, last week at School District 209 in regards to that as well. Tasers have been deployed, but also in regards to getting to the bottom of crimes that are happening. Establish a criminal analyst position to focus on investigations that needs to happen. Within the school district 89 is Melrose Park, Maywood, and Broadview. Maywood was the only village that did not have a school resource officer in the building. So this school year, we worked in partnership with School District 89 that now we have a Maywood police officer that works with our elementary and middle schools within School District 89. And then School District 209, back in the day, had somebody from the village of Maywood. Then it was replaced by a Cook County officer that really didn't have any roots or focus within the community. So now the 209 school officer that's at Proviso East is also Village of Maywood police officer. We established the Homeland Security and Public Safety Department that has our chief, Silas, in the back. If you guys have any thought processes of volunteering your time to give back to the community, he is most certainly looking for volunteers to come and help within the Homeland Security and Public Safety Department. We hired 9 officers, so 5 full-time and 4 part-time. We received funding from the Department of Justice that helps us even hire more. So by the end of the year, actually at the next board meeting, we'll be swearing in 2 more police officers and then looking to have more staff added by the end of the year. Again, hired an investigation specialist along with a criminal analyst to assist with cold cases, because a lot of times you have people saying, well, what about, I get you guys are solving murders and handling the murders of 2022, but what about the old ones? So you have people focusing on those as well. We purchased and installed 15 license plate readers cameras, and this enhances our technology because they have mic and camera footage recording ability with them. So it's definitely helping us in regards to monitoring the community more. Peer supportive initiative that was established with 4 officers and 1 dispatch train under the direction of Lieutenant Diaz definitely started to help with us getting things under control. We purchased 60 radios for the department. We have purchased speed bumps that we're still waiting to arrive because, as you guys know, COVID has dragged everything down. We secured grant assistance in regards to body-worn cameras. We were awarded $35,000 in regards to assets and forfeitures. And then we also reestablished the boot program with a dedicated boot administrator to make sure that we're focusing on moving our community forward. Some of the other things that we've done is upgrade our technology within our 911 call center, our fire department, and our police department as well, so that we can document information better, respond to information quicker, and work smarter, not harder. In regards to the, and then it's probably like 3 more slides just so you guys know. In regards to talking about the American Rescue Plan. So in regards to talking about the American Rescue Plan Act, there was $3.1 million awarded to the village of Maywood. One of the biggest things that I've been sharing since that award has taken place is there's still federal funding, there's still state funding, and there's still county funding, so we don't need to let that $3.1 million burn a hole in our pocket, because that funding goes across 4 fiscal years. So we don't have to spend that money today, and thankfully we have not spent that money today, because there are a lot of focuses that can help ARPA funding that we can still spend, and we are spending, on a federal, state, and local level. So when we did the community survey where we asked residents what would they like to see the ARPA money spent on, a lot of the focus was in regards to mobility, community design, and natural environment, and then on the economy, education, arts, culture, and inclusivity. So in thinking about it from that standpoint, some of the biggest focuses were services or programs to promote healthy childhood environments, expanded child care, enhanced services for child welfare, involved families and foster youth, financial aid to high poverty school districts to help reduce gaps in educational achievement, services to address behavioral health care needs increased by the pandemic, mental health treatment, substance abuse services and hotlines. And then some of our biggest challenges to focus on is lack of quality public school system in our community, not knowing what services are available in the community, and then feeling like our voice is heard in the community. So when thinking about from those types of standpoints, there's been ARPA funding and ARPA partnerships that we're working with in the village of Maywood that does not have anything to do with the $3.1 million that we received. But it is federal funding and it is state funding and county funding that is coming our way, that already programs have been implemented and more programs are coming. So with ICJA, the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Association, they have been focusing on partnerships in regards to gang and violence intervention, youth and family services, as well as just overall promoting workforce development. So we partnered and we're working on programming right now to be launched at the Maywood Park District later this year with the Black Fire Brigade. We'll be launching in September a focus on the My Brother's Keeper Alliance that focuses on young men in regards, one of the biggest parts is making sure that third graders can read at a third grade level by the time they get to third grade. One of the other biggest focuses are making sure that we focus on career and life readiness for our youth. With the Education Foundation has with School District 89 has been awarded funding where we're going to work in workforce development and career and life readiness tools in regards to promoting no bullying, mental health, self-care, self-pride, self-resilience is what a lot of that funding is going to go towards. DOD, which is Dedication, Love, and Determination, will have funding that they're focused on youth prosperity, trades, different programs such as that. DBL Naked Basketball will focus on sports and activities, also with partnership with School District 89 and the Maywood Park District. Girls Alliance, same as the My Brother's Keeper focus, but it's the other part that Michelle Obama started. So it's Girl Alliance opportunity on top of the My Brother's Keeper. Exploring is a 12 different field area of career exploration that our youth will go through that explores over 300 different career fields that they can go into. So that's a big focus. And then working with ex-cons for community and social change, as well as Black Men United, who've been awarded ARPA funding to focus on programming as well, hits a lot of the thought processes. Just going back real quick, when we talk about promoting healthy childhood environments, focusing on high poverty schools to reduce gaps, focusing on public school systems in our neighborhood, as well as behavioral health care. So I want us to know, even though we still are looking as a village and municipality, how to move forward in the spending of the ARPA funding that we have directly been awarded, we are already working in partnership with multiple different entities that basically what the survey has asked for, we're looking to provide even before we get to the point of spending our funding. And literally, this is the last slide. We're focused heavily on elements of a healthy Maywood. And when we talk about elements of a healthy Maywood, it's different areas of transportation, access to care, affordable quality, community safety, economic opportunity, educational opportunity, environmental quality, food access, community design, parks and recreation, social and cultural cohesion, social justice. So all 12 of those elements are a focus in regards to how we truly are moving Maywood forward in a collaborative and partnering way. With that being said, if you all would like to volunteer or be a part of anything that we're working on within the village of Maywood, on the bottom right-hand corner, you can go to the link, bit.ly/Maywood Volunteers. And you can also reach out to Ms. Banks, which is lbanks@maywood-il.org, or you can call us at 708-450-6366, which is community engagement as well. With that being said, the meeting was supposed to be over at 7:30, but we started late, so if we could want to spend like 10-15 minutes on Q&A. Is everybody ready to go? All right. So if you all have any questions, just for those who are watching online, there's a mic right there up front. If you just come grab the mic, we'll do it like public comment. Just say your name. You don't have to say where you are. If you have any questions, and I can answer them, or our community development director, Ms. Smith, can answer it, we'll do that. Otherwise, if we can't answer it right now, Ms. Banks will take the question as community engagement and then follow up with you. So if anybody has a question, yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Charlene Harris, and my concern is speed bumps coming down 16th Avenue. When the kids is getting out of school, there be a lot of cars speeding down there. And I'd be so fearful one of the kids is going to get hit by a car. And also, it's some neighbors, people in the neighborhood that's letting their dogs run free. And these are pit bulls. Well, it is one pit bull.
I am, as you're talking, I'm trying to pull up the spreadsheet. There were, okay, speed bump cushions.
We definitely need them speed bumps coming down 16.
All right, so in looking at speed bumps as an overall focus, in June when we voted on adding various aspects, so we have had a quote for over $30,000 for traffic designing and speed cushion that would take place. So it's heavily focused on between 9th and 17th Avenues, as well as 17th and 11th Avenues and the 1900 block, heavily between Washington Boulevard and St. Charles. And the speed bumps will help slow the cars down to 15 to 20 miles per hour. So there was various addresses on a spreadsheet that was provided, but that's predominantly in the area where the $30,000 in speed bumps and speed cushions will be going in, as well as focusing predominantly like around the school areas.
Okay, because that's where there's going to be a lot of kids.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Melvin Harris, and I really don't have a comment. I want to comment, first of all, it's good to see the mayor smiling. Yes. And I thought that I only had two sisters that could talk without breathing. That man can talk without breathing. I'd like to thank the police force. First of all, we're seeing new squad cars around. I'd like to see more cars being pulled over, just at random. I think that would help a lot, but I do see a lot of development that I'd like to thank you and your staff for, because I see, a lot of stuff like you listed on there that's coming up in the neighborhood. And it's really important that we can keep up with other neighborhoods, because I've been living out there for 30 years, and to watch Maywood just keep falling down the chart, it's something that's hurting and it's painful, especially for us living here, and we're not putting our force in it. Most time we come here to the meeting, there's always a show or a fight. So it really feels good to see, some togetherness and everybody, not attacking. This really feels good. So I just want to thank you and tell you to keep smiling. Tell the police force, y'all being watched, but y'all doing good. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Y'all pray.
Chief and Deputy Chief heard you in regards to pulling more people over. We'll work on that as well. Thank you very much.
My name is Jenny Catlin. I was wondering if the curbs are anywhere in there, the curbs for people in chairs.
The handicap accessible, like lanes?
And the curbs, there's so many curbs, they can't get down over here.
So, and going back to where it focuses on streetscaping, safety and roadways, yes. The different curbs that have been identified that are not handicap accessible are part of those projects.
Yeah, because by our building, there's a lot. You know what it is.
I know. It's on the list.
Okay, thank
But
you.
it definitely was assessed in these assessments.
everyone. My name is Edward Gibson. Okay. And in reference to the presentation, what I was thinking, there were a few items. In terms of the pool, it's good to hear that there's going to be an indoor pool. It's not a bad idea to focus on and spend dollars to just have only an indoor pool, because people can swim all year long. Okay, so that would be a nice benefit. Also, with so many things going on and there's so much money out there everywhere, are you increasing staff to help with all the work that needs to be done? So you're definitely going to need people to make sure that things are being done and that the village is taking advantage of all the funding that's out there. Okay. In reference to crime, I'd like to ask the police department, are they looking at analyzing crime from the people committing it? Are there repeat offenders? Do those people need some type of services and intervention to really affect crime? Also, you look at your crime areas. What do you need to do to make it not attractive to people to show up and continue to commit crimes in specific areas? So that could help as well. Okay, and one more thing. Public awareness is a big issue in this village. How do residents get their information? If there's something going on, if there's information programs, how do we apply for some of these funding programs, especially the TIF money for residential programs? How do we get this information and be able to respond to it? I think the village does need to do more to make sure that residents are aware on what's going on and the different funding and opportunities available. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so for the indoor pool, just want to make sure that that's proviso East's pool that they currently have. And then in the new pool, we're still looking at it being an outdoor pool facility once that pool gets built. But in thinking about the pool partnership that the Park District has with School District 209, the goal will be to be able to offer pool services on a more frequent basis with indoor and outdoor offerings once all is said and done. And looking at our staffing, so as you can see, we've added more staffing to the police department. Within the community development department, the role of retention and attraction coordinator as a position was created, and then we're also looking at adding an additional role to be able to help with all of the TIF zoning that's being redone, as well as overall focusing on a comprehensive plan and an accountable plan that we'll be having. With the building and code, we are looking at adding more roles in regards to that. If you recall, last year we established the Director of Building and Code department. The Director of Building and Code as a position. So we're looking at expanding on that and definitely looking for a more full-time grant writer that could focus with all of this infrastructure funding, all of the Inflation Reduction Act funding, all the ARPA funding that's still available. We cannot keep, no one person can work an additional job and keep up with all the grants that are rolling out, because as the Infrastructure Act is it's a once in a lifetime funding that's becoming available. We want to make sure that over the next 3-4 years, as those grants become available, that we are proactive about being ready to apply for those grants as they become available. And I think it's a big part of working with the Illinois Municipal League, the National League of Cities, as part of the infrastructure hubs that they have working with us, but we also have to make sure that we do our due diligence on our side. And then we're also looking and working in partnership with some of the job training, economic development programming that's going on the state level that could help actually attract, train, and facilitate people who live within the community to get the certifications and the trades that they need to be able to work within the community for the services that we need. So those are all big focuses that are going on within our staffing needs. And then also just analyzing our staffing from how do we work smarter, not harder, because some roles can most certainly add more to their plate and be held accountable in a different way. With thinking about the police and the police crime and things like that, So there is a police public safety meeting every fourth Monday at 7 p.m. at the Lightfoot Recreation Center. Chief comes out with the team from different departments that focus on different aspects of public safety. They speak about the different zones. They speak about the different practices that they've implemented and that they're focusing on to reduce crime. And then we talked about public awareness. So at this last board meeting, we did the vote to start a new website. So within our new website, it will most certainly focus on being more user-friendly from a cell phone or from a digital landline computer or a desktop. But that will focus on a lot of getting information out as a centralized location. Within the new website, it'll also have a community calendar attached to it so that you don't have to go to the Park District, the library, School District 209, School District 89, Quinn Center, and different nonprofits. It'll be a portal that they will have their own login access to be able to go into and log in different things that are going throughout the community. And that will help, one, with community knowledge and awareness, but it'll also help with us not having 5 events at the same time throughout the village of Maywood, like we're the city of Chicago size. So that's a big thing that's coming. There is the monthly newsletter that we started last year. So this year there'll be a total of 5 village mailings that go out in regards to the newsletter, where before there was just 2 a year. And then there is still the monthly newsletter that goes out. Within the new My Civic portal, where residents are able to report various different issues, alerts are able to report it through that portal. And then the last thing you talked about was the TIF funding. So with focusing on TIF funding right now, we voted 2 board meetings ago for the business improvement program. With the business improvement program that focuses on funding from a business perspective, as we're expanding into those 5 TIF district areas, that process won't be done until around April of next year. So right now we're putting those residential programmings together. But right now the active residential programs are the 50-50 sidewalk program, 50-50 in regards to replacing your water system to reduce flooding, and then 50-50 in regards to tree removal. But when we talk about programming for residents such as help with fencing, driveway, windows, and different things like that, those are programs that we're looking and talking about rolling out at the same time that we have TIFs that actually touch more residential, not just commercial. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, good evening, ma'am. Good evening, family. Couple kudos first. The Kroger Distribution Center, I believe, will be a boom for the community. Thanks to you and your administration for getting that done. Another thing that I heard tonight that made me happy was the First Avenue feasibility study. So I'm hopeful that the overpass or underpass for the train that goes across is able to happen. I know you said Fifth Avenue wasn't going to happen. Has there been any discussion about 9th? That's not my question, I'm just throwing that out there. But those 2 things I wanted to give you some kudos for. But my focus is mainly on economics. So in your Parks and Recreation part of the presentation, you spoke about the partnership you have with Park District and District 209. My question is, because those 2 entities are separate taxing bodies themselves, are we using Village of Maywood tax dollars to fund these partnerships, or are the Park District or 209 doing these things on their own? The only reason I ask is because you just gave us a synopsis on our relationship with the Park District, and you stated that we voted to get out of the business of being in parks. But from what it sounds like is that we're getting back into the business of parks. So I just wanted to, put that out there so that you can elaborate a little bit more on the relationship between those partnerships and tax dollars and where the monies will be coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So one, thank you, because again, we are definitely trying to move Maywood in a positive direction. We talked about when we talk about the feasibility for First Avenue, one of the biggest pieces, this CREATE program has been around for a couple of decades. So when they did the overpass on 25th Avenue, that was part of the CREATE program. So to think about 17th and 9th, it's too close to the 25th Avenue project that was done. And thinking about the 5th Avenue, one of the pieces was in looking at underpass or overpass, the buildings that would have had been acquired, but then also looking at St. Charles and as well as Lake Street that would have to be rerouted in a different way. But then also looking at Fifth Avenue as there is no Fifth Avenue entrance or exit to the expressway, but First Avenue does have an entrance and an exit. And then the other aspect of the conversation was the majority of Fifth Avenue, no matter which way you go, once you're done with the downtown district, is pretty much residential, whereas First Avenue connects you to 3 different interstates. So that's why the First Avenue became more of a reason why First Avenue became a bigger focus. And thinking about the economics from partnership and collaboration. So with the pool, there's a dual partnership because our funding, the Village of Maywood funds the Fred Hampton pool. So within the partnership of doing the work with 209 and the Park District in regards to operating the pool out of Proviso East, what was asked of the village was $23,000 to fund and operate that program. That money comes from $150,000 that, if you look at your tax bill, is a special use park and recreation tax that we as residents get taxed on every single year. So I can't speak to what that $150,000 a year was used on in the past, but that portion of what would have normally been spent at the pool can be allotted to the school district partnership based on the money that we would have invested at the Fred Hampton pool. When we talk about the park investments, again, we think about for nearly over a decade, we have taxed the Village of Maywood residents $150,000 a year for park and recreation, but we have no new pool, we have no new parks, we have no new facilities to justify that over $1 million in money that we specifically taxed for park and recreation. So with that being said, one of the other parts, if you look at the TIF map that has the 5 different areas, one of the big conversations when we had our meetings, because in order to get those TIFs, you have to have the school district, the park district, and the library agree to it. One of the biggest requests as we're talking about our green space as a community was to make sure all of the parks were within the TIF districts. So the money that would be utilized for parks is more so lighted area that otherwise would not be fixed, is us reinvesting in park areas that we abandoned over a decade ago. So no, we are not at all looking to restart a park and recreation department. If you look, one of the bigger things that have been done, if you look just 2 years ago, we literally were having Village of Maywood music in the park night on Tuesday, and the park district was doing one on Wednesday. Well, we would do trick or treat Friday, and then the park district would do treat or trunk on Saturday. So a lot of the collaboration in regards to partnership with the park district has been for the village to focus on governance of the village, participate and be very involved with the feel-good elements. But even if you look at the Maywood Fest for this year and last year, is a heavy focus on working with the park district in regards to doing those types of festivities, the back to school bash, park district, whereas the village in the past has tried to take on more of the feel-good versus the governance. So I don't want it to be confused at all that the village is thinking about going into park and recreation or even having someone focus on park and recreation. Even when we do partnerships within the community engagement department, that's Ms. Banks over at the park district talking to the park district. And it's not just the park district, it's the Quinn Center, and it's also the public library as well, and the school districts, and making sure that we're focusing on those things. But the Village of Maywood still owns the 200 building. That was the former Boys and Girls Club. So even though we have a management agreement with the park district, we're still responsible for the facility. The building that I spoke about before, the 1100 East South 11th building, that requires, again, $82,000 just to even start with the black mold issue. That's still owned by the village. So when we talk about that $150,000 that's special taxed, that literally goes towards park and recreation, and by state statute, it can't go towards anything else. We don't want to eliminate that tax because we still own 1st through 4th as a park. We still own the 200 building, and we still own the 1100 building, and we still have to manage the pool. So that tax will be utilized in partnership and collaboration with the park district. And then any money that we put into, say, helping or assistance with a new park or a new water feature, different things like that, will be utilized out of the TIF money. Because what happens with the tax increment financing is the money that the park district incrementally would have increased over the next 20 to 25 years gets taken away from them and frozen and transferred to the village. So any partnership that we would do in regards to rebuilding parks that we abandoned over a decade ago would pretty much come from TIF money or the $150,000 that we special tax as a separate line item already. All right. Then we're almost at 8, so we'll wrap up with that.
Hi, Laura Rogers. So I had a few things. So one is I wanted to say thank you very much for all the effort for Fifth Avenue, getting those speed limit signs up. Really appreciate that. It is having an effect. So I hope that more continues there. There's certainly more conversation I'd like to have with regards to the heavy traffic on Fifth Avenue. So, I did want to bring up with regards to the vacant properties issue and just put in a word for having public notice sent to people who live in the block areas around those vacant properties. So if there is a determination made that a particular residence should probably be demolished, then I would expect that the people who live within a certain radius of that property would be notified, just so that there could be some feedback. So I don't know if that would take place in a public forum of some sort that's being planned, letters being sent to those who live around those homes. Certainly I think that there are homes that structurally are so unsound that yes, they probably should be demolished. Other homes probably have some really good bones and could be rehabbed and put back on the market. And we'd just really like to make sure that there's a good feedback loop that's in place there. You mentioned the website. I know that's been on the radar for a really long time. Any ETA on that? When we might see? Would really like it to see, sooner than later. And then the other point I had was with regards to my civic. So I know I have sometimes submitted things on there. Sometimes there's been a really quick turnaround. Other times there have been items that have languished on the list, and there's no feedback that comes from that. One thing I was thinking about was with the MAPS meetings, we used to have somebody from code enforcement who would come and sit there. I think occasionally somebody from Public Works would have come as well. A lot of times at the MAPS meetings, some of the feedback that was coming from the public was better addressed through code enforcement or through Public Works, and it was not really something for the police to try to respond back to. And so that was very convenient. That fell off, and I think it's been for the good, because really it's great to have a meeting that's truly focused on public safety and just that community policing and having that rapport with the police. So I think I'm not asking for anything to change with the MAPS meeting, but what I would like to propose is perhaps having a regularly scheduled meeting similar to a MAPS meeting, but where we have representation from code enforcement and Public Works. I think a lot of the noise you might get in terms of public feedback at board meetings often really is having to do with trees that need to come down, or problems with garbage collection, or homes that are unsightly, properties that are unsightly. Perhaps that might be handled through a regularly scheduled meeting where people could directly address those questions, hear them answered. And that perhaps would also be a forum where we could get a regular update on how big is the queue of requests that are building up within my civic, how are they being prioritized, and when can we see those requests responded to and resolved? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so in thinking about the Fifth Avenue corridor and every corridor, there will be community meetings specifically about those various, each different corridor. The village is broken out from a public safety standpoint in 4 different zones. So there'll be zone meetings to discuss comprehensive planning around the entire zones. But for example, like with Fifth Avenue, there's been funding granted to the village from Quincy to Lake Street, and then the Lake Street corridor. So that'll be its own separate meeting to talk about specifically that commercial corridor. But from a zone standpoint, We'll have different zone areas of 1 through 4, as well as each different corridor will have feasibility and community conversation done to it. In regards to the public notices, in regards to demo versus rehab, couldn't agree with you more. We've looked at how other communities are quick to tear down versus rehab, and when you look at years later, you're still looking at a lot of empty grass space. So we definitely are going through the process of looking at what homes could even the village rehab and sell through partnership versus what do we need to tear down that is just no longer eligible for resurrection. So yes, demo is not the first focus, but for those properties that would, we put a list out of possible demolitions, and we asked for community feedback at the last board meeting so that our building and code department can work with our community development department to look at all of the properties that residents are referencing of what needs to be torn down, what can be torn down versus what can be a partnership with rehab. Website, so the website literally, after a year of confusion and battling, was voted on to change at the last board meeting. And Ms. Banks, that should take like, what, a couple of months?
Yeah, about 3 months.
3 months for the website to be fully functioning. So they're filling out the paperwork and doing all the things of what the different updates will be. So some of the biggest pieces will be, yes, it will still be the government site, but then it'll also be areas that focus on community engagement, workforce development, revitalization projects. Community development will have a whole different robust area of attraction and retention, and focuses on our business development aspect as well. So look out for regards to updates on that. Then with My Civic, so one of the big issues that previously were going on with My Civic, so My Civic initially got met with a little hesitation and fight back from various different entities, and that has been a focus of change. One of the other things that have been implemented more recently with changing of different things that have taken place is our community engagement manager is now in the weekly department head meetings that take place to specifically focus and talk about what's going on within the My Civic system. So one of the biggest issues that came to conversation was there's an area in My Civic that allows you to notate different things by department, but there was like a click button that would say notify resident or notify person, that if you didn't click the button, that person wouldn't get any notification of what was going on. So that's been set up as a default to more so make sure that we're notifying residents when we make different changes in regards to the My Civic system. And again, coming up on a year, the goal is to get it fully functioning as a focus of things being responded to and addressed within a 72-hour period. And if it can't be addressed, to actually have a notation of what's going on within it, so that a person isn't just saying, I reported this a month ago and I haven't heard anything. So that's a big focus. Thank you in regards to the public safety and community policing meeting, because I feel like public safety is such a huge focus. So thank you. I think the biggest thanks goes to Chief Willis for making sure that it's not just him as the chief of police at those meetings, but the different departments and the different areas within the public safety realm coming in and having those discussions from a community policing standpoint. Building and code and public works, looking at that possibly as something that could be like maybe like once we get back to the month, like focusing on the monthly meetings with the mayor, like that could be like a quarterly public works and building instead of trying to stack on so many different meetings in 1 month. That could be a focus of building and code and public works providing a report and conversation, hearing resident feedback versus me standing there smiling at you guys. So we'll definitely work on that. And then other than that, we are 8 o'clock on the dot. And I would just like to thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for hearing the feedback. Thank you for giving us feedback. I've typed what was being said as I was responding to it. Ms. Banks was taking notes, but the goal is truly just to share what we're doing to move the community forward, but also make sure that we're sharing that we are making the residents a part of the different things. We're moving into the status of updating with our comprehensive plan. So there's feasibility studies taking place in different commercial corridors. There's feasibility study funding that's been awarded for transit-oriented development via train systems. There's feasibility study being done in regards to a historic preservation downtown district area. There's feasibility being done in every corridor, and all of those will come with community meetings. So again, sign up for the Maywood newsletter. Those things will be sent through My Civic if you haven't downloaded the My Civic app for alerts. And stay tuned. Again, we'll be Maywood forward together. Thank you guys so much. Have a blessed night. Oh, Don't forget Maywood Fest, September 9th through the 11th. On Friday, you'll have house music night. Saturday, we will have Miss Banks Help Me. No. R&B Divas, and then we'll also have Regina Bell. And then Saturday night, we'll have Mickey Howard and Howard Hewitt. We'll also have gospel, we'll have church as well as a gospel concert Sunday morning. And, oh really? And then we'll also have a car show on Sunday as well.
Okay, I got your card.
Pull it.
Take care.